What's up, guys? Nintendo Nick here, and welcome back to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy. Now, this game is on the Nintendo 3DS and also on the Apple App Store. I don't really know about Android, but I know it is on the Apple App Store. And yeah, it's a really great trilogy. I have to say it's close to my other favorite trilogy, which is the Metroid Prime trilogy, and it really is a great experience, and I recommend it to anyone. But yeah, you can actually play this game on multiple devices. It was originally on the GBA, but it was exclusive to Japan, and then it got ported to the DS as 3 separate games, and it also then got ported to the 3DS as a trilogy with all of them combined, and also on the Apple App Store, which has all 3 games. And with the App Store, you can actually play the first 2 trials of the first game as like a demo. So if you're not sure after this review whether to buy or not, there is a demo type of thing on the Apple App Store to experience the first 2 trials on the first game. But other than that, the other 3 games are, I think, $5 or $6. So not really a bad price, and they are all 3 great games, including the first game, Justice for All, and Trials and Tribulations. As for the gameplay, it's basically like a graphic novel where you are a defense attorney and you're defending your client and trying to get them a not guilty, and basically discovering the truth. Because sometimes your prosecutor will actually help you trying to discover the truth, no matter if his client is guilty or not guilty. And it's pretty cool how they work together sometimes, like especially towards the last trials, which are probably my favorite, being Turnabout, Goodbyes, Farewell My Turnabout, and Bridge to the Turnabout, which are really well done. But yeah, they are really cool how both the prosecutor and the defense attorney, they work together to try and figure out the truth of what actually happened, which is really cool. I actually like that fact that they add. And there are a lot of plot twists, which are probably part of my favorite parts of the game. And yeah, basically what you're doing as for game-wise, other than reading, is trying to figure out how to what to like point out in his testimony, which is the main part of the game, is pressing him like in the testimony or presenting evidence of why he's wrong. And there's also other points where like you have to show on a map like what you're talking about and stuff like that. So basically you really shouldn't like skip over the dialogue, and it makes you actually read it. Like in other games, usually you just skip over the text and you don't really care, but in this game you have to basically read every single word a person says, because it's the difference between winning and losing. Because like in the first case, you'll see that the witness mistakens the time, and that little thing makes him uncover a lot of things that you didn't know about, and helps you defend your client. And it's really awesome how that works, in my opinion, and I really like it. As for the characters, I really like every single one of them, especially in the 3rd game. There's this guy named Gato, which is probably my favorite character in the entire trilogy. And yeah, he's really mysterious. He drinks a bunch of coffee, and he's just really calm and cool, and I absolutely love him. But yeah, Trials and Tribulations is probably my favorite out of the 3, just because you discover a lot of truth from the past. Like you see your chief, which is Chief Mia, and you see like her past and like her first trial and her past, because don't really want to spoil anything, but you'll see after the first trial what happens to her. So yeah, it's really awesome that you get to see all that. And I think both 3 games are actually are only 5 cases, but usually a case takes about, I'd say about maybe 2 or 3 hours, which is a lot. I mean, especially the final case takes a long time. The first case usually takes about an hour or so, but second and third usually take 2 to 3, while the last case can take up to like 5 hours, which is crazy. There is also a DLC trial, which is for the first game, which is only I think on the Wii Shop, which is Rise of the Ashes, which is completely different from the other like turnabouts and stuff, and it's basically using scientific investigation, which is really cool. You get to discover like fingerprints and also like footprints and all that stuff, which is really cool. And I kind of wanted to see more of that, but it was cool to see that, and it's probably one of my favorite cases, to be honest, just because of the scientific investigation. But yeah, the Trilogy is known to be the best out of the Ace Attorney games. Like future games aren't as good as the Trilogy, some people say. Other people say that Dual Destinies is pretty good and that it's better than some of the games in the Trilogy. But in my opinion, I do have to say Trials and Tribulation is probably my favorite so far. I did hear though that Investigations 2 is better, but there's a English translation for emulator on the DS. But as for the other things in the Trilogy, the music, I have to say, is fantastic. I absolutely love every single track of this game. It really creates atmosphere for the game. Like when your testimony, when like the defendant or the witness is testimony, it does music for that, which is great. And every single game actually has different music, which is even better. Like it switches things up so that you don't get tired of it. Like if you are tired of like one music track for one area. But especially the like objection themes and the pursuit themes are really well done, and I really like them. They're probably my favorite out of the soundtracks. But anyway, as for the graphics, they're mainly 2D, mainly because there really isn't much to show. It's just a bunch of dialogue. There really isn't any graphic difference from the original, and there's nothing wrong with that because the graphics weren't really that a big deal for the Ace Attorney games, and it really isn't for the future ones too. It's mainly the dialogue and the drama and the like the suspense of knowing the truth and stuff. So yeah, I really like it. And in every case, usually it starts out with investigating the crime scene and talking to people, and sometimes you'll have to present certain items to people to get more info, and also to like get to new areas and like make new people appear. It's kind of weird, but you have to kind of guess and check. Basically what I do. But you can't do that in the courtroom though, and in some other areas, because they will deduce you or penalize you, and you have like a health bar in the second and third game. In the first game, it's actually exclamation marks, so it actually shows how much health you actually have. But in the second and third game, it tells you how much health you get deduced. So sometimes it will be a lot, depending on what your question is, or it's like a little if it's like a hard question sometimes. But yeah, I really do think it's pretty fair. And in the second and third game, there's actually this thing called psych locks, which you actually have to discover the truth. Like sometimes you'll know when they're lying, your witness or defendant or whoever it is, and you actually have to present evidence in order to discover the truth, which is pretty cool. I actually like that fact that they added that. Other than that, there really isn't much else for the beginning of the trial. But when you go to the courtroom and you defend your defendant, you basically just listen to what the prosecutor has to say, the judge, the witness, and sometimes your chief or your partner. And then you'll hear their testimony. You'll press basically everything they say, look for contradictions, and then point them out. And then once doing so, usually the defendant or the witness will blurt out the truth, and it's pretty satisfying, to be honest. And some of them can actually be pretty funny how they react to when you present evidence. Like sometimes they'll break down and like go in like a crazy action. So yeah, it's a pretty fun game, and some of the dialogue can actually be pretty funny in my opinion. There are quite a few laughs here and there. Other than that, it can be serious at sometimes. Like sometimes there will be like a character death that will be very serious, and like it fits the music too. Like there'll be like sad music, and it can be serious at times too, like in real life, and it really does a good job of that. But anyway, other than that, there really isn't much else to talk about. You can always just see your evidence with the court record, and I think you can even go back in some games. Like you can see what they said with clicking a certain button, I think it is. In other ports of the game, I don't think you can, but in some of them you can. But yeah, it's a really fun game, and that's basically all I have to say about it. So thank you guys all for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more reviews right here on Tell Nick. Bye.